Your mind is for having ideas, not for holding them. Let that quote sink in for a moment. Because if you're like most people, your brain is probably running in overdrive, buzzing with reminders, to-dos, half-finished tasks, emails you haven't replied to, errands you've been meaning to run, and that one conversation you keep replaying from last week. It's exhausting. And no matter how many productivity hacks you try, or how many times you write, "get organized" on a sticky note, you still feel like you're falling behind. Sound familiar? That's where getting things done, or GTD, comes in. David Allen doesn't promise a magic wand or some time-warping life hack. What he offers is something far more powerful. A practical, battle-tested system that helps you manage your tasks, reduce stress, and finally feel in control of your life again. This book has become a global phenomenon for a reason. CEOs, entrepreneurs, artists, developers, busy parents, people from every walk of life have used GTD to clear mental clutter, sharpen focus, and accomplish more with less anxiety. In this audiobook summary, I'll walk you through Allen's 5-step GTD system in a way that's super easy to follow, even if you're multitasking. I'll share how I personally applied it to manage my chaotic schedule and how it helped me stop reacting to life and start taking control of it. Think of this as your productivity toolbox, filled with clear, actionable insights. You can listen to this while driving, cooking, walking, whatever you're doing. I've broken the content into simple chapters with timestamps in the description, and you'll hear rapid-fire recaps throughout to keep you on track, even if your attention drifts. And if you're wondering whether the physical copy is worth it, consider this your free preview. There's a link in the description if you want to grab it on Amazon. So before we dive into David Allen's world of stress-free productivity, do me a quick favor. Hit that subscribe button and comment below where in the world you're tuning in from. Let's get into it and start getting things done. A new practice for a new reality. Let's be honest. Most of us weren't taught how to deal with the chaos of modern life. We learned algebra and Shakespeare in school, but no one handed us a manual for managing 200 unread emails, 14 Slack messages, and a to-do list that breeds like rabbits. If your brain ever feels like a browser with 37 tabs open, this chapter is your wake-up call. David Allen opens the book by saying the world has changed, and our systems haven't. We're living in a reality that runs at full throttle. Work doesn't end at 5 p.m. Notifications follow us home. Deadlines blur into weekends. And our minds? They're overloaded, overwhelmed, and over it. Here's the kicker. The human brain isn't built to hold more than 7 things at once. That's it. Anything beyond that starts slipping through the cracks. That's why you forget to buy milk, even though you thought about it 17 times today. Allen argues that trying to mentally juggle everything is the source of our stress, not the work itself. So, what's the fix? A new practice for this new reality. A system where your brain can let go, because it knows everything important is captured and under control. This isn't about doing more. It's about thinking less so you can focus better. Imagine having a mind like water, calm, clear, and ready to respond, not react. GTD offers that possibility. It gives you a way to build trust in your own system, so you can stop mentally circling the same tasks and actually make progress. This chapter sets the stage for everything to come. It's not just about getting organized. It's about reclaiming your attention, your energy, and your peace of mind. And honestly, who wouldn't want that? Getting control of your life, the 5 steps of mastering workflow. You know that feeling when you're overwhelmed, not because you have too much to do, but because you don't know where to start? That's not a time management issue. That's a workflow issue. In this chapter, David Allen introduces the backbone of the GTD system, the 5 steps of mastering workflow. It's not about working harder or faster. It's about creating a reliable system that lets you focus your attention on the right things at the right time. The first step is capture. Think of it as taking out the trash. Only instead of garbage, you're clearing your mental space. Every task, idea, or "I should do that" thought goes into an inbox, physical or digital. Whether it's renew my passport or text mom, if it's on your mind, it's taking up space. Getting it out of your head is the first move toward clarity. Next, we clarify. This means asking, what is this thing I just captured? Is it actionable? If the answer is no, either trash it, file it, or save it for later on a someday maybe list. If it is actionable, figure out the next physical step, because plan vacation is overwhelming, but book Airbnb is doable. Then comes organize. This is where everything finds a home. Calls go in a calls list. Errands go on an errands list. Projects go on your projects list. This step keeps your system structured so you always know where to look when it's time to act. Reflect is the secret weapon most people skip. Alan recommends a weekly review where you check in with your system, clean up your lists, and make sure nothing's fallen through the cracks. It's like hitting the reset button on your life every week. Finally, we engage. Now that you've cleared, clarified, and organized your world, you can confidently choose what to work on next without second guessing. No more "what should I do" spirals. Just clear, focused action. Master these 5 steps, and you'll go from reacting to chaos to running your life with calm, collected control. Getting projects creatively underway. The 5 phases of project planning. We've all had those moments where we stare at a big project, like launching a website, planning a wedding, or renovating a kitchen, and feel completely frozen. Not because we're lazy or incapable, but because we're overwhelmed by the sheer number of unknowns. That's where David Allen's natural planning model comes in. Instead of jumping straight into the chaos, this model breaks down any project, personal or professional, into 5 simple, creative phases that mimic how our brains naturally solve problems. The first phase is defining purpose and principles. This means asking, why am I doing this? And what matters most here? When you're clear on your purpose, motivation kicks in. Think of it like using GPS. You need to input your destination before it can map the route. The second phase is envisioning the outcome. Alan suggests painting a vivid mental picture of what success looks like. What would the finished project feel like? What would you see, hear, or experience? This vision acts as a magnet, pulling you forward with clarity. Next comes brainstorming. This is the fun part. Dumping every idea, step, or resource you can think of without filtering. Alan recommends using mind maps or just messy lists. The goal here is quantity, not perfection. Then you move into organizing, where you take all those brainstormed ideas and put them into structure, grouping similar tasks, identifying sequences, and assigning categories. Finally, you arrive at identifying next actions, the most important and often skipped step. You ask, what's the very next physical action I need to take? Whether it's making a phone call, sending an email, or ordering materials. Defining that one next move kills procrastination and builds momentum. When you apply these 5 phases, big projects stop feeling like black holes and start becoming actionable roadmaps. It's not just about planning, it's about making progress with confidence. Chapters 1 to 3 of Getting Things Done lay the foundation for stress-free productivity in a world that's more complex, fast-paced, and mentally demanding than ever. In Chapter 1, A New Practice for a New Reality, Alan argues that our traditional ways of managing work are outdated. With endless inputs and distractions, we need a system that frees up mental space and brings clarity. GTD is that system. Chapter 2, Getting control of your life introduces the core of GTD, the 5 steps of mastering workflow: capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage. These steps provide a repeatable framework to handle anything life throws at you, from emails to massive projects. In Chapter 3, Getting Projects Creatively Underway, Alan reveals his natural planning model, a simple, 5-phase method to approach any multi-step task. Define purpose, envision the outcome, brainstorm ideas, organize them, and identify the next action. This model mirrors how our brains naturally solve problems and helps reduce overwhelm. Together, these chapters shift your mindset from reactive to proactive, giving you the mental clarity to focus on what truly matters and take decisive, confident action without the usual stress and chaos. Getting started, setting up the time, space, and tools. Let's face it, trying to implement a new productivity system while sitting at a cluttered desk, juggling distractions, and fighting the urge to check your phone every 5 minutes is a losing battle. Before you can fully embrace the GTD method, you need to create an environment that supports focus, flow, and clarity. That's what this chapter is all about: setting the stage for success by organizing your physical space, carving out time, and gathering the right tools. David Allen emphasizes that you don't need a fancy office or expensive gadgets. You just need a dedicated workspace, a place where your brain knows, this is where I process stuff. Whether it's a corner of your room, a home office, or even a section of your kitchen table, the goal is to separate your doing space from your relaxing space. This simple boundary helps your mind shift gears. Next, you'll need the basic tools to capture and process information. Think: notepad or journal, filing folders, physical or digital, inbox trays, a trash bin, sticky notes, and your favorite productivity app or planner. It's not about perfection, it's about function. If you can collect, review, and organize from wherever you are, you're golden. But here's the key: make time to do this right. Set aside a few uninterrupted hours. Alan calls this your setup time. Use it to clean your workspace, sort your piles of paper, set up lists, and start capturing everything that's on your mind. You're building a launch pad, not just a to-do list. Starting GTD without setting up your space is like trying to cook a 5-course meal in a messy kitchen. You'll burn out before you even begin. But once your space, tools, and schedule are ready, the system becomes fluid, easy, and even, dare we say, fun. Capturing, corralling your stuff. Let's play a game. Think of everything you have to do right now. Go ahead. Mentally scroll through your inbox, errands, that one birthday gift you still haven't bought, the oil change you've been putting off, and oh, did you ever respond to that Slack message from 2 days ago? Exactly. Your brain is already tired. That's the problem David Allen tackles in this chapter. Your mind is not a storage unit. Allen's first rule of GTD is simple but powerful: capture everything. That means every task, idea, worry, or commitment needs to get out of your head and into a trusted place. Why? Because your brain wasn't built to remember. It was built to create. And the more stuff you try to hold on to mentally, the more stress you generate. You're not just remembering things. You're actively using energy, trying not to forget them. Exhausting, right? Here's how to start. Grab a notepad, your phone's notes app, a whiteboard, whatever works. Now do a brain dump. Everything, big or small. From plan family vacation to buy toothpaste. Don't filter or judge. Just get it all out. You're creating what Alan calls your external brain. Real-life example? I once wrote down, "Tighten that weird kitchen drawer," during my first capture session. 2 weeks later, I fixed it in 5 minutes. But I'd spent months letting it live rent-free in my head. That tiny act of writing it down gave it an exit ticket from my mental clutter. Capturing is the foundation of clarity. Once you start doing it regularly, you'll notice your brain getting quieter, freer. Suddenly, you're not afraid of forgetting stuff because it's all in the system. And trust me, there's nothing more liberating than seeing chaos become clarity. One sticky note at a time. Clarifying, getting into empty. So, you've done the brain dump. You've got a mountain of sticky notes, half-formed ideas, emails, receipts, to-dos scribbled on napkins, and reminders in your phone. Congrats, you've captured your stuff. But now what? This is where the real magic begins. Clarifying. It's the second GTD step, and it's all about deciding what everything actually means. Because here's the truth. Stuff that just sits in your inbox, whether physical or digital, creates mental clutter. Until you decide what it is and what needs to happen next, it continues to drain your focus and energy. David Allen calls this process getting into empty. Your in tray, whether that's your email, a to-do app, or a literal basket of paper, shouldn't become a black hole. It's not where tasks live forever. It's where they go temporarily until you've clarified them. For each item, ask, is it actionable? If the answer is no, you either toss it, file it for reference, or park it in your someday maybe list. But if the answer is yes, the next question is, what's the next physical action I need to take? Here's the key. Don't write vague, foggy tasks like plan event or get healthy. Those are too big and too fuzzy. Instead, clarify down to the next concrete move. Email Sarah to book venue, or buy running shoes. That's the difference between intention and momentum. Clarifying takes some mental effort, but it pays off in clarity and control. You'll go from staring at a mountain of stuff to holding a clear, actionable roadmap. It's like turning fog into focus. The more consistently you clarify, the more your to-do list becomes a trusted partner, rather than a guilt-inducing monster you avoid at all costs. Chapters 4 to 6 are all about laying the groundwork for your GTD system and getting the stuff out of your head and into a trusted system you can actually use. In Chapter 4, Getting Started, Alan walks you through setting up the time, space, and tools you need. That means creating a dedicated workspace, gathering basic supplies, inboxes, file folders, notepads, apps, and blocking out uninterrupted time to kickstart the process. The goal is to build an environment that supports focus and organization. Chapter 5, Capturing, is where the real mental relief begins. You learn how to offload everything that's on your mind, tasks, ideas, worries, errands, into one or more inboxes. This is your brain dump, and it's how you start clearing the mental clutter. No filtering, just capturing everything. Chapter 6, Clarifying, teaches you how to process what you've captured. You go item by item and ask, is this actionable? If not, you either trash it, file it, or save it for later. If it is, define the next physical action required to move it forward. Clarifying is about turning vague intentions into clear, doable steps. These chapters create the mental clarity and structure needed to start getting things done, calmly and confidently. Organizing, setting up the right buckets. All right, you've captured your chaos and clarified what everything means. You're now sitting on a goldmine of next actions, ideas, and reminders. But if you don't put them in the right places, you'll lose track of it all. That's where this next step, organizing, comes in. David Allen compares it to creating buckets. Every task, note, or reminder should live in a specific place where you know to find it when the time is right. If capturing is like dumping puzzle pieces on the table, organizing is when you start grouping the edges and sorting by color. Let's break down the key buckets. First, you have your next actions list, a running list of all your clearly defined actionable tasks. But here's the twist. You organize it by context, not by project. So instead of one giant, overwhelming to-do list, you have smaller lists like calls, at computer, errands, or at home. This way, when you're standing in the grocery store, you can pull up your errands list instead of mentally sifting through 50 unrelated tasks. Then comes the projects list. A project, in GTD terms, is anything that requires more than one step. From planning a trip to launching a new product, if it takes multiple actions, it goes here. Each project should also have at least one next action tied to it. Otherwise, it's just a wish. You'll also need a waiting for list for tasks you've delegated, a calendar only for time-specific events or deadlines, and a someday maybe list for things you might want to do someday. Finally, your reference files are for anything you need to keep, but don't need to act on. Receipts, notes, ideas, etc. The key idea? If your brain trusts the system, it will stop trying to do the job of a filing cabinet. Organizing gives every thought a home, and you peace of mind. Reflecting, keeping it all fresh and functional. You've captured, clarified, and organized everything. Your system is humming, your desk looks great, and for once, you actually know what you're supposed to be doing. But give it a week, or even just a few days, and things start to slip. Sticky notes pile up again. Your next actions list feels outdated. Projects are half finished, and you're back to reacting instead of responding. That's why reflecting, the fourth step in GTD, is so essential. Without it, your whole system turns into a dusty digital graveyard of forgotten lists. Reflecting means taking time to review your system regularly, especially once a week. David Allen calls this the weekly review. And if there's one GTD habit that separates the pros from the dabblers, this is it. The review isn't just a check-in, it's a full reset. You look at your calendar, past and future, scan every list, review all projects, clear your inboxes, and decide what needs to be updated, deleted, or pushed forward. It's not about doing the work, it's about making sure you're working on the right things. Think of your GTD system like a garden. Without regular tending, even the most well-planted garden gets overrun with weeds. The weekly review is your pruning session. It keeps things clean, intentional, and thriving. And the best part? It brings peace of mind. Instead of walking around with a vague sense of, I'm forgetting something, you'll know exactly where everything stands. Allen recommends setting aside a consistent time each week, Friday afternoon, Sunday evening, Monday morning, whatever works. Put it on your calendar and treat it like a non-negotiable meeting with yourself. Reflecting isn't glamorous, but it's powerful. It's the moment you stop being reactive and step into intentional control. When your system stays fresh, your mind stays free, and that's where the real productivity begins. Engaging, making the best action choices. So, you've done the hard work. You've captured all your tasks, clarified what they mean, organized everything into tidy lists, and even committed to reviewing it all regularly. Now comes the final, most important part, taking action. This is what David Allen calls engaging, the part where you stop thinking about productivity and actually start being productive. But here's the twist. It's not just about doing something, it's about doing the right thing at the right time. Most of us approach our day either in panic mode, rushing to put out the loudest fire, or in autopilot, reacting to whatever pings, rings, or emails land in front of us. GTD flips that by giving you a structured way to decide what to do next. Allen introduces 4 criteria to help guide that decision: context, time available, energy level, and priority. Let's say you're at your computer with 30 minutes before a meeting and low energy. Why not knock out a few quick admin tasks from your at-computer list? On the other hand, if you've got a free afternoon and strong mental focus, that's your window to dive into creative or deep work. This approach eliminates that frustrating decision fatigue. You're not scanning a messy to-do list and wondering where to begin. You're making confident, informed choices based on what your current situation allows. The real power of this step is that it gives you control over your attention. You're not reacting, you're choosing. And that shift from reactivity to intentionality is what makes the difference between busy and truly productive. By engaging with clarity, you're not just checking boxes, you're building momentum. You end your day knowing you spent your energy wisely. And honestly, in a world full of noise and distraction, that's a superpower. Chapters 7 to 9 focus on the mechanics of keeping your system organized, current, and actionable. In Chapter 7, Organizing, Alan introduces the concept of buckets, specific lists or places where different types of tasks and information live. This includes the next actions list, sorted by context, like calls or at computer, a projects list for all multi-step outcomes, a waiting for list for delegated tasks, and a someday/maybe list for future ideas. Organizing is about ensuring everything you've clarified has a logical home and can be retrieved at the right moment. Chapter 8, Reflecting, emphasizes the importance of regularly reviewing your system, especially through a weekly review. This habit keeps your lists fresh, helps you catch what's fallen through the cracks, and resets your focus for the week ahead. Without reflection, even the best system becomes stale and unreliable. Finally, Chapter 9, Engaging, is about making smart decisions in the moment. Using 4 criteria: context, time available, energy level, and priority, you can choose the best action to take right now. Instead of reacting to whatever's loudest, you act intentionally based on your system. Together, these chapters ensure your GTD setup stays functional, flexible, and aligned with what matters most. Getting projects under control. Let's be real. Projects have a sneaky way of looking simple until you actually sit down to work on them. Planning a vacation? Sounds fun, until you realize it involves 10 flights to compare, 4 hotels to vet, and a passport that might be expired. Projects unravel fast when you don't have a clear system to manage them. That's where this chapter comes in. Getting projects under control is about transforming multi-step chaos into manageable, momentum-building progress. In the GTD framework, a project is anything that requires more than one action to complete. It could be launching a podcast, organizing your garage, or onboarding a new employee. Most people struggle because they try to juggle all these in their heads. Or worse, they make lists like start podcast and never define what that actually means. Alan's antidote is simple. Keep a projects list that gives you a bird's-eye view of all your active outcomes, and make sure each one has a clearly defined next action. But don't stop there. Use tools to keep project support materials organized, dedicated folders, digital notes, or checklists. These aren't to-do lists. They're spaces to park the research, emails, or outlines that support your progress. And when things feel stuck, it usually means there's no next action defined. So revisit the project and ask, what's the very next thing I could physically do? Alan also recommends periodically scanning your projects list during your weekly review. This keeps them from falling into the out of sight, out of mind zone. Whether it's moving a project forward or deciding to put it on hold, you're in control. When your projects are tracked, supported, and clarified, they stop weighing you down and start pulling you forward. And that's when things finally start getting done. The power of the collection habit. Let's face it, our brains are terrible filing cabinets. They forget birthdays, misplace ideas, and constantly nag us about things we haven't done yet at 2 a.m. when we're trying to sleep. That's why David Allen emphasizes the collection habit as one of the most powerful mental freedom tools in the GTD system. Simply put, this habit means capturing everything that grabs your attention the moment it does, instead of relying on memory. The reason this habit is so powerful is that it offloads the burden of remembering. Allen explains that uncollected stuff clutters your mind, even if it's something as small as replace light bulb or text John back. Every time you think of it but don't capture it, your brain keeps it in an open loop, draining mental energy. When you commit to collecting everything, ideas, reminders, promises, worries, you begin to build a sense of trust in your system. You stop worrying, "Did I forget something?" because you know it's already in your inbox. It doesn't matter what tool you use, a notebook, a phone app, voice memos. What matters is that it's with you at all times and you use it consistently. The goal is to collect things as soon as they hit your brain, not later when you're less busy. This habit seems small, but it's transformational. It's like cleaning up your mental desktop. Once your mind knows it doesn't have to remember everything, it relaxes, gets creative, and becomes significantly more focused. You stop mentally rehearsing your to-do list and start trusting the process. Over time, the collection habit becomes second nature. It creates space, clarity, and most importantly, peace. You're no longer mentally juggling tasks, you're calmly collecting them and making space to actually live. The power of the next action decision. Have you ever stared at a to-do list that says things like start blog, plan vacation, or get healthy, and felt totally paralyzed? That's because none of those are actions, they're outcomes. And outcomes without a clear starting point are overwhelming. In this chapter, David Allen makes a bold claim that changes everything. The simple act of deciding the next physical action is the most powerful productivity tool you have. Seriously. When you don't define the next action, your brain keeps circling the task, trying to figure out where to begin. This creates friction, mental clutter, and avoidance. But when you ask, "What's the next thing I need to physically do to move this forward?" you give your brain a clear path. Suddenly, start blog turns into buy domain on Namecheap or brainstorm 10 post ideas in Notebook. Small steps, but massive momentum. Allen explains that the next action decision is not just about clarity, it's about movement. Projects stall when the next step is vague. They move when the next action is obvious. It's like pushing a boulder. You just need to get it rolling. One email, one call, one Google search. That's all it takes to break the inertia. This principle applies everywhere. In your work, your home life, your creative projects. Whenever you feel stuck, stop and ask, what's the next action? Not the perfect action, not the final step, just the next one. And here's the kicker. When you consistently think in next actions, your to-do list becomes sharper, your projects move faster, and your mind feels clearer. You stop spinning your wheels and start making traction. One small step at a time. It's deceptively simple and incredibly powerful. The next action isn't just a task, it's the gateway to getting things done. The power of outcome focusing. If the next action is about moving forward, then outcome focusing is about knowing where you're headed in the first place. David Allen argues that most people aren't stressed because they have too much to do. They're stressed because they haven't clearly defined what done looks like. Vague goals like get finances in order or fix the website live in your brain like unsolved puzzles. You keep thinking about them, but you're not making real progress. That's where outcome focusing changes the game. At its core, outcome focusing is about starting with the end in mind. What does success actually look like for this project? What would you see, feel, or experience if it were complete? By painting that mental picture, you give your brain a clear target, and it starts working toward it, even subconsciously. Psychologists call this the reticular activating system, your brain's filter for what matters. Once you define an outcome, your mind starts noticing relevant information, ideas, and opportunities to get there. Take a real-world example. Instead of saying, improve the website, reframe it as, create a clean, mobile-friendly homepage that loads in under 2 seconds and clearly explains what we do. Now that's a vision. Once the outcome is clear, you can reverse engineer the steps to get there. Outcome focusing also fuels motivation. When you're connected to a compelling end result, the tedious parts, writing emails, updating spreadsheets, making calls, don't feel so heavy. You're not just doing tasks, you're building something that matters. Alan emphasizes that this habit applies on every level: daily to-dos, weekly priorities, even life goals. Whether it's planning a dinner party or launching a company, defining the outcome first gives you clarity, energy, and direction. When you know where you're going, every action becomes a step toward it, and that's real productivity.